Relieve, respond, revive. WSFL-TV presents The Rebound, South Florida.
We are living in an example of why we need the census, why we need a more complete count.
As South Florida works to rebound, what happens in the present day could affect what happens in the future. Why it's critical now more than ever for communities to stand up and be counted. We want to help you make ends meet and rebound from the financial impact of COVID-19. The pandemic has put a strain on a lot of people, but there are some positives. The companies that are slashing prices to make items more affordable for you. And helping those in need is what South Floridians do. One organization needs your help to make sure thousands of people have something to eat. The Rebound South Florida starts right now.
As students head back to Florida classrooms amid a health crisis, school districts around the state are already dealing with questions surrounding PPE, from needing more money to pay for it all to the reality that demand could leave some campuses falling short. In a school district warehouse, boxes of personal protective equipment, or PPE, is being stored and delivered to public schools here every day.
6 truckloads went out today.
As of today, Hillsborough County's district stockpile includes nearly 25,000 hand sanitizers, nearly 500,000 pairs of gloves, and 1 million masks.
We wanted to make certain that we try to stockpile as much as we can.
For the nation's 7th largest school district, PPE is estimated to cost up to $7 million per month, according to the district superintendent.
That's a lot of money.
While federal CARES Act money, grants, and its own general funds will help the district pay for some of its supply, it needs to find more money, especially as more shipments are needed.
Right now, it's going to be able to allow us to open in an efficient manner, but we just don't know the forecastability of it.
Across the state, we've learned the need for PPE is leaving school districts battling for the money to pay for it all. Nearly $700 million in federal CARES Act dollars has or is still being distributed to Florida school districts. And while the money can be used for PPE, many districts have earmarked it to cover other expenses, including more staff and the technology for distance learning. So districts are getting creative. Polk County is asking the community for donations. Lee, Orange, Hillsborough, and a handful of others are also banking on FEMA to come to the rescue. But FEMA says any money for school PPE will be limited, if granted at all. Reimbursement for school face masks is only eligible when being used in the performance of an eligible emergency protective measure. And normal operation of schools are not considered emergency protective measures, according to a FEMA spokesperson. But to those on the front line, money is but one part of the PPE problem on campus.
There are certain things that are hard to get.
Lisa Kern supervises 45 school nurses who cover more than 90 schools for the Pasco County School District. She worries how long her PPE supply will last and how difficult it will be to restock.
School districts are competing with hospitals and nursing homes and other healthcare facilities throughout the community that are also looking for personal protective equipment. I believe that's going to be a struggle moving forward.
It's a nationwide problem now getting the attention of a U.S. Senator. Gary Peters of Michigan recently asked FEMA for a disaster relief fund specifically for schools. And we're told Senator Marco Rubio has also been in touch with FEMA to make sure Florida schools have what they need to deal with this pandemic. Katie LeGrand, WSFL TV.
Rebounding from the pandemic goes beyond what's happening right now. What will happen in the future is just as crucial. With the 2020 census underway, many are concerned the census will be miscounted due to the coronavirus. That's why it's important now more than ever to make sure you're counted.
Those of us in the community, when we think of census, the first thing we think about, what's in it for me?
That's the big question every 10 years. The answer?
More than $675 billion in resources are allocated each year. And in the funding formulas, what reigns true for all of them are the population statistics. So the more people you have, the more resources you will get.
Marilyn Stevens is an assistant regional census manager. She says the census data is used to determine the distribution of the billions of dollars for federally funded programs. And it's also the basis for distributing seats in the House of Representatives and various state legislatures. Florida for the 2010 census was very fortunate because it picked up 2 additional congressional seats, which means Florida increased its voice in Congress.
The bigger a state's voice, the more resources those congressional representatives bring to the state, which filter down through the counties, the cities, and really onto the streets of all of our communities.
We are living in an example of why we need the census, why we need a more complete count. The money that we are getting from the federal government to fight this pandemic really is determined by how many people were counted 10 years ago.
Sandra Bernard-Bastian is the Chief Communications Officer at the Children's Services Council of Broward County, an organization that funds over 100 agencies and programs for children and families in the county. She says filling out the census helps the organizations they fund provide more to the community.
Because we are very, very much interested in our community, we want to make sure that they have the funds necessary to do everything that is possible for children and families. We all benefit.
All of these healthcare programs and more are dependent on having the best population statistics. Why? The question will be for all of us, will our numbers support our needs over the next 10 years?
Marilyn says a lot of people wonder if the information provided can be used against them. The answer is no. Marilyn says the census data is protected by 2 laws. You can find more information on those laws and how to fill out the census on our website, WSFLTV.com. Just click the Rebound.
You know, you want to work, we're hiring.
A furniture company wants to put Floridians back to work. They're looking to hire hundreds of people. We have the information you need. Next. The travel and tourism industry is working hard to rebound, especially here in Florida. The changes Airbnb is making to protect you and your family if you decide to get away. You're watching The Rebound, South Florida.
The pandemic has put a strain on a lot of people, but there are some positives for consumers. As companies try to rebound, Kylie James with RatherBeShopping.com says many companies have slashed their prices to make them more affordable for you.
Talking like up to like 60% off at stores like Land's End, Old Navy, Gap, American Eagle, even Macy's. I've also noticed that quite a few companies are offering free shipping that weren't before.
A great time, says James, to take advantage in an otherwise tough time.
So we had a lot of cancellations, especially for graduation season.
The travel and tourism industry took a hard hit thanks to the pandemic, but a rebound appears to be underway. I talked with a local Airbnb host as she works to get reservations filled and keep guests safe.
Even though it's not getting really any better, it's kind of steady.
Ivory Council is an Airbnb host in Tallahassee. She said the pandemic hit her reservations hard this spring, going from reservations for 80% of the month to virtually 0 for 2 months, making for an uncertain financial future after she and a business partner invested in this property 5 years ago.
I was nervous.
But as the economy slowly rebounds and Airbnb institutes stringent cleaning measures, recently things are looking up.
Even though my calendar seems to be empty a little further out, I'm getting those last minute bookings. They're really coming through.
And those bookings play an important part in our local economy. Carrie Post is director of Leon County Division of Tourism.
Airbnb and the home sharing platforms are a very critical part of our destination accommodations mix.
Especially now as staycations and road trips become more popular getaways.
It is a very affordable time to travel, but obviously safety is of paramount importance.
And Council goes the extra mile to make that happen.
I now leave 48 hours between each reservation.
And she goes for a deep clean, spending 3.5 to 4 hours after each guest comes through here.
Before I leave out of the door, I stand at the front and I look around and I think, would I be okay with my 3-year-old daughter sleeping in this house?
A mission she says she'll continue as she welcomes more and more people to the capital city now that reservations take up 75% of each month again.
I love knowing that I'm providing a safe, comfortable place for people to lay their heads.
And Airbnb has a whole checklist of things to clean after each guest, including doorknobs, light switches, and even hair dryers. I checked with another home sharing company, VRBO. They've got similar policies in place to keep guests and hosts safe. I'm Channing Frampton, WSFL TV.
Hundreds of thousands of Florida business owners receive federal PPP loans to survive the pandemic. But are all business owners getting the help they need? We did some digging, and the numbers may not add up. getting through this with stories to help get back on track as we rebound in South Florida.
I'm Forrest Saunders at the Capitol. About 400,000. That's how many Florida businesses used federal PPP loans to survive the pandemic. About $32 billion in all, saving 3.2 million jobs. But when we looked at minority-owned businesses, we found a big disparity.
When the pandemic hit the economy, Larry Thelmus was one of many Florida business owners whose operations froze.
It halted, sales for about 8 weeks.
Securing a federal PPP loan was vital, he says, to keeping the lights on at his lighting business.
I was going into my personal checking, personal savings, to maintain the office and maintain, my payroll.
While Thelmus, who is black, says he didn't struggle much to secure the aid, he's certain many of his minority colleagues had different experiences. A clear picture isn't easy because the Small Business Administration's PPP application didn't require a race be provided, but looking at the numbers available does show a big disparity. Of the more than 22,000 applicants who volunteered it, the vast majority were white, with only about 4% black. The SBA maintains minority totals are much higher due to spotty info, but it lacks the data to back that.
Black businesses did not get PPP, particularly early on.
That's Beatrice Lewis-Saint, head of the Florida State Minority Supplier Development Council. She believes a disparity exists because minority-owned businesses often lack the stronger banking relationships of white owners.
With COVID, much of what we're doing moved to being online. So if you didn't have the documentation and information or relationship with your banker, it made it even more challenging.
Add to that a study for the National Community Reinvestment Coalition finding 43% of the time banks treated black PPP borrowers significantly worse and offered different products compared to white borrowers with slightly weaker financials.
We're going to lose an entire generation of entrepreneurs because they could not get the help that they needed immediately.
With another stimulus plan in the works, Lewis-Saint is hopeful the federal government will improve things. She wants a more streamlined application process and reduced thresholds for loan forgiveness.
It has been challenging.
And Thelmus, who says he's been denied loans in the past, encouraged minority owners who missed out on PPP to not give up hope.
You keep going, and if you can't do it on your own, then you get help.
When it comes to Florida's federal PPP loans, here are some things to remember. The data on race is limited. But of the 22,000 recipients who volunteered it, 67% were white. About 4% were black. And advocates believe the disparity is connected to minority businesses having weaker banking relationships versus white owners. That's the latest out here at the Capitol. I'm Forrest Saunders, WSFL TV.
Every week we tell you what jobs are available in South Florida. A statewide known company where you may have gotten your home furniture from is hiring hundreds of employees. The furniture store we all see when we drive down the busy streets of South Florida is hiring. City Furniture is looking for over 500 employees.
High energy, who's friendly and enthusiastic. They really enjoy what they do because that's the kind of environment that we have here is a fun, exciting environment.
And if you're wondering why they're hiring so many people, they're expanding throughout the state. Chris Schoenfield, showroom director at the Boca Raton location, says with people working from home now more than ever before, sales for home furniture has increased.
Sales associates all the way from south as Dade, Broward, to Palm Beach, even in Orlando and the villages as well. We're also looking for delivery drivers and customer service call center representatives in addition to our corporate office. So there's plenty of positions available right now.
You want to work. We're hiring people. We've hired 20 people since I came back to work.
Donna Dobry, sales associate at City Furniture, was hired in March. She says in over her 25 years of experience, she's never experienced such a great atmosphere.
You have to really be focused on what you're doing. You have to be creative. You have to think outside the box a little bit. But I think I do notice that there's a certain atmosphere here that I've not seen in other places where they're not disrespectful. I've never heard anybody speak disrespectfully to another person in this store, from management down to, anybody.
Chris says the company furloughed a lot of employees when the pandemic hit, but then brought every employee back to work.
It just comes to show that we're looking for more and more people. So for those of you who have lost your jobs and are going through these hardships, reach out to us. We'll make sure to bring you right back up into an amazing organization.
There are several City Furniture locations in South Florida. To find out which jobs are available at a location near you, head to WSFLTV.com.
The need for home-delivered meals to homebound seniors is increasing. One South Florida organization is asking for the community's help to raise funds for these much-needed nutritious meals. What you can do to help, next.
Every week on the Rebound South Florida, we tell you about Meals on Wheels, a nonprofit organization that provides meals and services to the elderly. The nonprofit really depends on volunteers and the community to help those in need, especially during the pandemic.
We saw a 300% increase in the number of clients and meals that we've served since March 13th.
Since the pandemic hit, the need for food and assistance in the elderly community has vastly increased. In response to that, Meals on Wheels South Florida launched their peer-to-peer campaign, a way people can help without having to leave their homes.
They can create their own fundraising campaign and share it with all their friends. It's an online system that you can access through our website.
According to Mark Adler, the executive director of Meals on Wheels South Florida, pre-COVID, they were providing for 10,000 homebound seniors. Now they're serving over 13,000. So volunteers are needed now more than ever. Mark says if safety is a concern, they've changed the way they operate substantially to ensure everybody is safe.
We deliver the meals to the door, stand back and wait for the senior to pick up the meals, or if we do need to bring the meals into their home, if they can't bend over and pick them up, we ask them to socially distance when they open the door, and we'll go in and put them down. And all of our volunteers are supplied with personal protective equipment.
Mark says if you can't physically help, a donation to any of their many programs goes a long way.
You can decide, do you want to support Meals for Pets, or do you want to support feeding homebound seniors, or do you want to support general support for our agency as a whole, which is really important because in these times, I mean, everybody's having a hard time making ends meet, and that includes us. So general support is really, it's hard to find, and it's really, really needed.
Mark says they normally have 600 volunteers delivering meals. Now they're down to 300. If you're interested in volunteering or donating, you can find more information on the peer-to-peer campaign on our website, WSFLTV.com. Just click the Rebound. In every city, there's an area that provides everything a person needs to live, work, and simply just enjoy life. In South Florida, it's not hard to find those special areas. That's why we love to call this place home. Every week on the Rebound South Florida, we ask you what you love about the community you live in. Tonight, we leave you with David Mattis.
I live in Brickell. I lived in Westchester. I was born and raised there, and I moved probably back in November. Now I get to walk and not be a part of traffic anymore, so that's always nice. There's like so much to do here, right? So, I mean, if it's like running or exercising, usually I'll go to Brickell Key. It's just a really diverse, and it's a community that has a lot of people my age. That it's just a different type of vibe, and it's definitely more compelling than just the partying that you think of when you think of Brickell. It's the vibe of being part of a community, that made balcony DJ sets with people outside on their balcony with pots and pans during quarantine a thing. So in retrospect, I think that's what best describes the Brickell vibe.